Bills came up late and got the division title from the Dolphins. It appeared the Dolphins were going to win it. This man has covered the Dolphins for a very long time. He's Omar Kelly, the Miami Herald. And I was just thinking while we were in break, how long have you covered the Dolphins?
I believe this is going to be my 17th season.
Wow.
I began Cam Cameron 2007. Only took 1 year off to work with I Am Athlete and back again. And man, this is probably the best team that I've seen. It's probably the best group of leaders that I've seen. The coach has relinquished power to his players, something I've never seen. So this is a little bit different.
One of the big narratives, Omar, about the Dolphins, and I think there's accuracy to it or it wouldn't have developed, the idea that when the season gets to the critical moments, they're having a harder time focusing and winning. And it's almost like it comes too easy earlier in the season, and then when it gets difficult, for whatever reason, it doesn't work out. Do you believe this year is the year they can change that narrative?
That's all they talk about. I think Jordan Poyer came here and in one of his press conferences, they believe it was the start of training camp. He talked about how when he was with Buffalo, the narrative about this team was that they would fold under pressure, that the intensity would raise or the moment would come and they wouldn't show up. Jalen Ramsey was one of those guys that in one of the more heated practices, a fight broke out and Patrick Paul was body slamming Cater Kohu. Jalen Ramsey stood in front of the coach, took over the post practice huddle, and basically gave them a lecture for 10 minutes about how we are going to be the bullies of this division. We are going to change how the intensity of how we play opponents. We are not going to back down from anybody. And we are primarily not going to back down from adversity. And they showed that in, the season opener, despite all that they had going on, including two of their players being arrested, because that's what they were until the Dolphins got involved. They were being arrested and ultimately released. They fought through that adversity, fought through a slow start, and then delivered a fourth quarter victory. And it also included Tua Tagovailoa giving the team a tongue lashing at halftime.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because the game got obscured by everything else. But the most encouraging aspect of the game, down 17-7, not our day. And, you get that vibe. It's just not our day. And a lot of times teams just surrender to that. Javon Holland punches the ball out as Travis Etienne is heading for the goal line for what would have been, as a practical matter, the clincher, and everything changes. And that's not what we're used to from the Dolphins, no. Especially at home in September on a Sunday afternoon. 70-20 is what we're used to. It's easy, it's fast, it's over. I think the fact they had to dig deep right out of the gates is going to serve them well when things become very difficult beginning, in my estimation, Thanksgiving night at Lambeau Field.
I don't think I think it's going to begin Thursday night tonight. This is a critical matchup. They know, and they talk about, even Mike McDaniel, if you want to get this division, if you want to get to where you want to be, and they've talked about Super Bowl for the past 2 years, you have to host playoff games and you have to win your division to do that. And they know that this matchup here, especially at home, is going to be critical to that. It's going to be critical to their playoff seeding and where they're and who they're playing and who they're hosting. So tonight is probably one of the most important games of the season. I know it's not December, but these AFC East matchups that they come down to the Miami Dolphins and the Jacksonville and the Buffalo Bills. And they got to be on their A game. There's no excuses because they're relatively healthy. I know they're not going to have Raheem Mostert out there, but they got Devon Achane, even though he's not healthy. They got the rookie Jalen Wright, and they got Jeff Wilson. That's why you kept four running backs. They're going to have to be out there, and they're going to have to perform.
You think Achane will go tonight? Questionable with the ankle. We learned earlier this week, questionable doesn't mean anything. You got to wait until 90 minutes before kickoff to know the truth.
Yeah, Achane was fine at the end of the game. He has got a mild limp. I don't know if he's going to have be completely available in the playbook, but that's why they've got Jalen Wright. And I tell all fantasy football players, I was more impressed with Jalen Wright's rookie training camp than I was with Devon Achane. And he's got speed, he's got power, he's got great vision. If you need a fantasy back, and I don't talk fantasy, but don't sleep on him.
You mentioned Steve Ross and all the extensions. You know, before the Tua deal was done, there was a lot of conversation, and I was hearing from people, Steve's not going to do it, he's not going to do it. At the end of the day, he paid everybody, and he extended the head coach, which some people were surprised by because 2 years in, no playoff wins. I mean, Mike McDaniel has proven he can be a great regular season coach, but maybe you got to win a playoff game before you get that second contract. How surprised were you with how active Steve Ross ultimately was with his checkbook and his pen?
Not at all, because that's who Steve is. If think about the facility, think about the organization, think about F1. If it's going to help you get to the next level, Steve is writing that check no matter how big it is. That's just his modus of operandi for probably since he's been owner since 2007. And this is about the extension should have been done earlier, in my opinion. This is about keeping their playoff window, keeping their Super Bowl window alive until probably 2028. When you watch the San Francisco 49ers, they're building a comparable team, comparable coach, comparable style, and and look at San Francisco, and it's taken them years to get over that hump. They're not expecting an immediate return on all these investments, but they're trying to create a team that will have a window of Super Bowl contending probably till 2028. And to do that, you have to keep all of those players. All the players that they sign are major players in that equation. And not just that, but Mike McDaniel. Steve Ross has always wanted the sexiest offense in the NFL. He finally has it. You think he's not going to extend the guy who was able to build it and rehab the quarterback who Brian Flores basically told him was trash? Steve Ross has always been an admirer of Tua Tagovailoa, and now he's finally delivering the kind of play and performance and wins that the organization believed that he would bring, and it's Mike McDaniel who did it. So there is no question in my mind that Steve Ross was going to do all of those extensions. I'm a little surprised that they stopped one short and didn't extend Javon Holland. But if he continues to make game-changing plays like he did against the Jaguars with punching that ball out, he's probably going to be one of the highest paid safeties in the NFL.
Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.